So today, I went and cast my ballot for Donald J. Trump. And I know many of you did too. I met so many of you coming in and you had your stickers on. I just voted, and it was such a pleasure to meet many of my constituents here in the rally today. I thank you so much for voting for Donald Trump, and I thank you for voting for me. It's my honor to serve you in Congress.
Okay, we knew she was going to vote for Donald Trump. Big surprise, big surprise. But early voting? Oh, geez. Won't that lead to voter fraud? I thought we were trying to nix early voting because that led to voter fraud. Or is that only when Democrats do it? Can't keep up. Even her tweet says, don't wait until November 5th to cast your ballot. Lock it in now, Georgia. But that just... it contradicts everything they've said before about voter fraud and the election being stolen. For example, when Donald Trump truthed, I will never get used to truthed. Remember, you can never have fair and free elections with mail-in ballots. Never, 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 won't and can't happen. So which is it? Don't answer that. It's rhetorical. I know what the answer is. The answer is it's only voter fraud when Democrats do it because they don't vote the way we want them to.
Georgia state leaders did nothing to stop the steal for President Trump's race, and now they changed nothing, did nothing, and now look at our 2 Georgia Senate seats. Today, I'll be objecting to a stolen election. We can't allow this to happen. I'll be fighting for the people's vote.
That little snippet is from when Marjorie Taylor Greene was freshly elected, like her 2nd month in D.C. Very, very vocal about voter fraud and the stolen election. And yet, here we are, 2024, right before another election in which Donald Trump is involved. And she's going against her previous words, her previous statements saying that mail-in ballots equal voter fraud, and she is encouraging all of her constituents to mail in their ballots.
The people of this country, Americans, by the millions, 75 million people re-elected Donald J. Trump on November 3rd, and they are screaming from the rooftops that they know this election was stolen. We've got so many people that have signed affidavits at risk of perjury telling about election fraud. We have all the situations in Georgia, such as Vernon just spoke about, and I thank him for speaking up and telling the truth and serving Georgians like he always does. But we have a true crisis, and this isn't about political parties. This isn't about Republican and Democrat. This is not about President Trump versus Joe Biden. This is about the truth and defending the people's vote, and it's appalling to me that our state leaders in Georgia are not listening to the people and doing what they're asking is a complete audit of every single machine and all of the ballots.
This isn't about Donald Trump. This isn't about Joe Biden, although the only time it's ever happened is when it was Donald Trump, and it was only against Donald Trump. And it really seems like it's about Joe Biden, Marjorie Taylor Greene, because you haven't left the man alone since 2020. Everything she does and says is just a hit on Joe Biden. I mean, look at this mask that she's wearing. This mask is as useless as Joe Biden. Okay. But no, this isn't politically motivated, and this isn't against Joe Biden. This isn't for Trump. This is just to protect the people's vote. Is it? Is it to protect the people's vote? Now, if you've watched my videos before, you know that I have no love lost for Joe Biden. I don't think he was that great of a president. I think he made a lot of promises that he didn't follow through on. I don't like a lot of the things that he ended up doing. However, that's not what this is about. It's not whether or not he was a good president or a bad president. It's about the fact that a huge part of Marjorie Taylor Greene's political career has been about election fraud and blaming Joe Biden and the Democrats for election fraud. And interestingly enough, even though it's not about Trump, it's something Trump has been talking about since 2016.
First, 2016, a Trump tweet falsely saying, "I won the popular vote if you deduct the millions of people who voted illegally."
We're going to launch an investigation to find out.
Fast forward to 2018. The same year, President Donald Trump's voter fraud task force disbanded without finding any evidence of widespread voter fraud.
In many places, like California, the same person votes many times. You probably heard about that. They always like to say, oh, that's a conspiracy theory. Not a conspiracy theory, folks. Millions and millions of people.
And like the good little marionette she is, all Marjorie Taylor Greene has done since then is just regurgitate the same talking points, despite the fact there was never any proof that there was voter fraud or that the election was rigged or stolen.
Gabe, I do not consider you an expert on this issue. As a matter of fact, I consider you a major problem. For you to say there were no dead voters in Georgia, there was thousands of dead voters in Georgia. And then the other thing is, you have constantly shilled for this election, and I'm going to tell you, there was blatant, outright fraud in the 2020 election, complete and total fraud, and you know it. You absolutely do know it. And I'm going to follow up with one more thing. Trump won Georgia. I know you don't like for me to say that, but I am convinced that he did.
Ma'am, what's your proof that Trump won Georgia in the election? Because I think so. There's no proof that there was fraud, so that's literally her argument. Is that I think so. I just know it. Just, from my heart. The reality is conservative policies aren't popular. What the Republicans want to do when you take a poll, and you put it to a vote, is deeply unpopular, and the majority of Americans don't want it. Republicans consistently lose the popular vote in most elections, so they have to get creative to make it seem like there's a conspiracy, to make it seem like they could win and they have won in the past and they always win, and they're just foiled time and time again by fraud. And when you don't have substance, you have to go for flash to get the people's attention, to keep the people's attention, to get the people on your side. That's all. They never have facts, correct numbers. They're constantly being called out for incorrect numbers or misleading numbers on things. They only go with emotions, which is the best way to manipulate people, is to speak not to their brains, not with facts, but to their hearts, to speak to their emotions. And that's what they do. They ain't got no proof. They ain't got no substance. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to check out some of my content that isn't news related, you can check out my personal YouTube channel at Bad Gamer Wyatt. And until then, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.